yeah, so I feel that you need someone with a brain. You don't necessarily need a gun to lead a police department for a few days.
You just heard Chief Tim Doran explain to the Police Citizen Advisory Board during an illegal executive session why he chose Bob Coleman, a civilian, to lead Loveland Police Department instead of choosing Assistant Chief Lori Scott, Assistant Chief Jan Burrison, or Assistant Chief Mike Trombley to lead the department. Why would Chief Tim Doran say something so offensive to his assistant chiefs of police? It could be that Doran thought that nobody would ever hear this executive session recording, and perhaps he thought that would gain him favor from the board members. But if you're the assistant chief, any of these three assistant chiefs of police, and you hear the chief of police say that you don't need a gun to lead the department, you need a brain, and you're not chosen to lead the department, but Bob Coleman, who is not carrying a gun or a badge, but apparently has a brain, is chosen, what do you think this does for the morale at the Loveland Police Department? Why does Chief Tim Doran feel so comfortable speaking so offensively about his assistant chiefs of police with the board members of the Police Citizen Advisory Board? Is it that Tim Doran knows that the board members will protect him? Is it that Tim Doran didn't think the recording or his relationship with the board members would ever reach the light of day? Regardless of what the reason is, the fact that Chief Tim Doran is speaking so highly of Bob Coleman, who is not a sworn officer, he doesn't have a gun and he doesn't have a badge, and is choosing Bob Coleman to lead the department over longtime employees, his assistant chiefs of police, why would Tim Doran need that? City Councilor Dana Foley has a long history of childish behavior when certain people are speaking during public meetings. There are times where it looks like Dana Foley is going to fall out of his chair because he's leaning so far away from the speaker. He did that again last night when City Councilor Aaron Black's husband was speaking. And then when City Councilor Aaron Black began to talk, City Councilor Dana Foley actually left the chambers.
And and it's mentioned in the report, there was a question as to why did I make Bob Coleman my acting chief when I was out of town for a few days during the fire.
You're the executive. It's your decision.
It's my decision to make, and so to question that, it gets into operationally, moving from your policy position into operational. And to me, the fires were going, it was the tail end of the fires. It was like it hadn't jumped to Route 34. We had been providing manpower to some of the checkpoints, and there's no one in this room, let alone in this town, who could handle a city, a police department during a fire than Mr. Coleman, based on his, 45 years of experience, and being a former, assistant chief equivalent, a captain over at the. So he was the logical choice for me to pick, not the. So that became a thing, and I'm like mystified as to why that became a thing.
It's disturbing to hear Chief Tim Doran explain that you don't need a gun, you need a brain to lead the police department. But more concerning than that, even, is that when Bob Coleman is leading the department, there is no law that requires him to wear a body camera. if Tim Doran chose any of his assistant chiefs of police to lead the department in his absence, they're all required to wear body cameras. With the history of the Loveland Police Department, the necessity of having a body camera on every officer in charge is imperative. There's a long list of cases where body-worn cameras have entirely discounted the police reports and have exonerated victims of police brutality. So for Bob Coleman to not have a body-worn camera on his person while he is acting as the chief of police is quite troubling.
You need someone with a brain. You don't necessarily need a gun to lead a police department for a few days. You need someone with a brain. You don't necessarily need a gun to lead a police department for a few days.